So in this video, I'd like to explore procedural leaning and weapon resting, because I've seen a lot of new players who appear to have no idea that those features exist in the game. So if, let's say you want to use this car as cover and you want to shoot from this position somehow, but you don't want to strafe like that. What you can do is you aim like that, and you hold your left control key. And this is for PC. On console, your controls will be different. Then just tap your lean keys like that. Now you can also, while you're still holding left control, you can mouse wheel up or down to adjust your stance. Combine those two posing features, and then you can peek like that. So the next feature is weapon resting. Now, the most straightforward use is you need to find some type of flat surface that's horizontal, and you press C, that's on PC, and then your weapon is rested. Then you have a much more stable shooting position. So this is shooting without resting. This is with resting. So the way the system works is that it appears to have some type of procedural check where if the surface is sufficiently flat below the front part of the weapon, then the game will try to snap to it, like that. Now, I think it's still not perfect. If a developer sees that, I think they should see it's always like 10, 15 centimeters above the weapon. I think it's like some standard snapping height. It should match the geometry for each weapon as close as possible, I think. And the interesting thing here is that you can use it on almost any surface. You can get really creative with it. Let's say you can use this car, for example, and go like that. Look down a bit, and now you got a resting position like that. You can also get on the car like that. Use that surface, and snap like that. Okay, now switch to machine gun to show another feature. Because in this game, it depends actually on whether you have the bipod deployed or not, on how the geometry of a weapon interacts with the surface you're trying to snap to. Say, for example, I want to rest my gun over here like that. See here? It's rested like that. If I deploy the bipod, snap again, notice the weapon is now considerably higher on the point. I can use it like that on this point over here. I can just use it at that point. Here's one more thing I'd like to show you is when you rest the weapon like that, you can also scoot it around a bit and say I'm iron sighting right now. Now if I go beyond a certain point where it's physically impossible for the character to keep a side picture, then you lose the side picture, but you can still use the weapon like that. So it's sort of like a blind fire feature. Okay, let's go inside the house. Now here's where it gets interesting. Like you have pretty complex geometry you can use. The first thing you can do is you can just make sure you shoot the window open or smack it open with some type of melee weapon. Then you can just rest the weapon like that. You can also deploy it. See, when you deploy it like that, notice it snaps back inside. So you have to undeploy it to snap it outside. And this can have different advantages and disadvantages. Depends on where you want the rotation point to be, because here it's on the contact point with the window ledge, I think. And if you use the bipod, then it's more on the front of the weapon. And this way you're exposing the shooter less towards the outside. But sometimes perhaps you want to have a rotation point that's closer to the window. And there's another thing here, for example, let's say you could rest it up here, but then you don't have a good shooting position outside. You can get on the table. Now you would think you could go prone and shoot like that, but notice here it's still not ideal. Do it like that. There's not enough room for that. So there's no way to directly go on that ledge. And the problem here is that, but it's not a problem, it's more like a physical thing, is that the lowest position before prone, let's go one notch up, is like that. So there's nothing in between that would match the snapping position of the gun, so the shooter would have a realistic position. But technically, in real life, you could probably lean even further late like that and just look at the gun like that while you're shooting it. But what you can do is you can just stand up and deploy the gun up here. Notice the bipod gets in the way, so lower it. Like use the gun like that. And this way you have more elevation when you're shooting out of a window. And another cool thing is that you can combine your vehicles as a point to climb up on to things you wouldn't normally reach. Nah, come on. Let's get up here. Okay, now if you successfully climb the roof like that, then you can use the roof as a firing position. You can put a gun like that, and you can shoot from a very elevated position like that. If you put a bipod, now here it gets a bit tricky. Like if you put it directly on the edge like that, it also works. But you might lose the iron sight position if you want to shoot down directly at something that's close to the house. So what you can do is you scoot back a bit on the wall like that. And then you can retain more of that position like that. But you might end up shooting into the edge of the window.